I'm so glad you brought up Jimmy Butler because he's the next topic. We always have Pistons fans submitting in like questions for the podcast, and
Yep.
they want to know about Jimmy Butler and should the Pistons look to target Jimmy Butler. This is what I'll say before I ask you. Playoff Jimmy Butler is different from regular season Jimmy Butler. I just want to say that. I feel like playoff Jimmy Butler is a top 5 player, like in just the playoffs. Like the fact that he got to the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals twice and carried them on his back. Great player, but he wants to get paid $50 million. I do want Pistons fans to realize that. And he's also 35 years old. And when you're talking about timelines with Cade Cunningham, who's only 23, the timelines really don't, I think, mesh well together. And I don't think you want to be committed to paying Jimmy Butler over $50 million when Cade's Supermax goes into effect next season.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler at his absolute best is a fantastic player. What he's been able to do with Miami to overachieve and get to 2 finals that, quite frankly, they had no business in being in, just from a roster construction standpoint. He is one of those special players in the league that, let's say if the Pistons were right on the doorstep of being a contender, he would be a great piece to add. But like you said, with him being 35 years old, with him being someone that I think the nicest way you could say it is divisive in some of his times in other locker rooms. The very well documented scrimmage where he took, second and third stringers against the Minnesota starters and beat them to prove how soft they were so he could exclaim it to the entire gym. I don't know if that's something you necessarily want with a culture that you're building in Detroit, especially, with, even though this team's playing really well, losing streaks can very much still happen. And I don't know how much he'd have a patience for that type of building when he is someone that's looking to contend and win a title and do something now. And so to waste any assets that you have, which are very, very limited on, someone who is aging, who, isn't necessarily having his best season, who doesn't necessarily be in the greatest mindset of where he's at. I just don't know if that's something that you necessarily want to roll the dice on either. Again, Jimmy Butler is a great player and someone that, if he was a little bit younger, absolutely embodies what Detroit's about and would be someone that, I would have loved to see them go after, but not at 35, not under these current circumstances, especially not with some of the things that we've seen happen in Jimmy Butler locker rooms in the past.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a track record. I mean, it's not just Minnesota.
Yep.
Philly, the infamous Tobias Harris over me quote.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that's a Philly problem. I mean, Philly's just, I don't know, all the talent they've got.
I didn't even think about that. Putting Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler on the same team potentially after all that, like from going Tobias Harris over me to Tobias Harris with me would be a heck of a storyline.
The articles write themselves.
Yeah, they really do. They really do.
I do think Jimmy's going to get moved. And you made the point earlier, like all these superstars like Levine, who knows what happens with Phoenix? I mean, like, did you see Kevin Durant and Devin Booker smiling after they've lost like their last 1 out of 7?
Oh yeah.
That's going to implode. I'm sure Matt Ishbia is not happy about that. Like the Pistons are in prime position to be that team saying like, how bad do you really want it? Like we need draft capital. We'll take a bloated contract. Give us some first round picks. And I think Trajan's been really, really consistent with that throughout since he's taken the job, saying like, we're just looking for assets and players. And what's the first trade he makes? Tim Hardaway Jr. for 3 seconds. I feel like it's been kind of like a win-win trade for both sides. Like Quentin Grimes is playing really good ball right now with Dallas. And then, THJ has had his moments here in Detroit where, he's taken over games, especially that Miami game, which is just like, I'm still thinking about that. Like hitting that many 3-pointers in like a 30-second span is wild to me. But to kind of just finish up this topic, no to Jimmy Butler, but I think the Pistons could be involved in these 3-team trades over the next month or so.
Oh, no question. I think if a Jimmy Butler deal is going to happen, more than likely the Pistons are going to play a role in making it happen. But it won't be because they're going out and making the move for Jimmy Butler, just because, like we said, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, like if this was a team that was like top 3 seeding in the East? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, this team is starting to figure out how to win basketball games with just like good role players around Cade Cunningham.
Right.
I was telling Eric last week, like, what happens when you put like another star next to Cade? Like, what's the ceiling of this team? Like, how far can they go? Like, Malik Beasley, elite, just role player. Like Tim Hardaway Jr., good role player. Tobias Harris, good vet. Like, you didn't really add a whole lot, and this team is being competitive. And you had mentioned that they've been playing like over 500 basketball just from a week to week basis. They've just been playing really good ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
How petty can Riley be? He should trade Butler to Washington. Chuck Brewer. Good grief.
Oh, I mean, like Pat Riley's. Jimmy Butler said anywhere but here. Pat Riley would say anywhere. Bet. I mean, that would. Ooh, what a storyline that would be. Talk about 2 guys that would that probably would not be 2 peas in a pod. Jimmy Butler and Jordan Poole. That would be popcorn to see them be teammates.
Yeah, I mean, the baddies in Washington would come out, though. I've been told.
I'm going to refrain from comments.
Kind of sticking on Jimmy Butler. Did you see NBA Central? Like, they're probably one of my favorite, like, follows on Twitter. But, like, when they put the Vegas odds, it was, like, plus 30,000 Shanghai Sharks.
Disrespect, man. The disrespect. The fact that it's even a conversation. It's not like he's washed. It's not like we're seeing a Jimmy Butler that can't play.
Oh, man. Like, the fact that, like, he got suspended and then the Player Association is trying to appeal the suspension. Like, he just called Chris Paul, like, man, you see this shit? Like, get me out of it.
What a mess. What a bona fide mess. But it's here. I think you're seeing just 2 alphas just not backing down and not budging for anybody. And, you know, I think Pat Riley, I don't think he cares if Jimmy Butler's happy with where he goes. I just think he wants to get the best package. I mean, this is the guy who let Dwayne Wade walk. You think he's gonna give the like special treatment to anybody? He let LeBron James walk.
Let Shaq walk when he was in his prime still.